G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time. So, straight into this, we had a lot of fights on over the last few days, and I think I'm going to start with the fight that is kind of, in my opinion, was the biggest of the weekend, which was Charlo versus Castano, and I want to talk about what happened on that undercard as well. But let's just talk about this fight real quick. Now, I spoke about this before. The first fight that they had about this time last year, I thought that Castano won it. I thought he outworked Charlo. I thought that he fought. Charlo let Castano fight his fight. And I looked at it a few times, and I actually thought originally after it was over, I thought if they have a rematch, Castano will win, because he should have really won the first fight. But then I was looking at it and I was thinking, hang on a minute. Charlo let Castano fight his fight. Charlo can box so much better than this. His footwork is better, his judge of distance is better, his counterpunch is better. He is just a better fighter. He just didn't show it in this fight. So I thought that Charlo, I picked my prediction league round 11. I was a bit upset, 1 round shy. But basically in this fight, he fought the way he should have fought in the first fight. He fought the fight his way. He used his distance, to great effect. He used his long range boxing to great effect. He was the superior fighter in here. The mid rounds kind of 4 or 5, they were some of Castano's best rounds. He did a little bit better work in them rounds. He definitely won rounds in here against Charlo, but I believe the scorecards, let's have a look at the scorecards, they were 89, 82, 87, 84. The 87, 84 scorecard is probably about the most accurate. Castano had success in here, but he was not able to replicate it to the extent he was the first time around, and Charlo was just better. You see, Castano in that first fight fought as good as he can fight. That was the best you'll see Castano fight. Whereas Charlo had a lot more room to improve following on from that fight, and I felt he did it, and I felt he won this fight very well. He obviously was able to drop Castano twice in the 10th, and it was a good win. It was a very good win for Charlo. He boxed very well. He looked very good. He definitely is the man. There's no doubt about that. Out of the two Charlos, I used to always think that Jermell was just a little bit better, but his career is just, it's really stagnated over the last few years. He never really followed on from that Derevchenko win, and Jermell was really stealing the march on Jermell prior to that. He really was. The blip was against Tony Harrison in a fight that it could have went either way. Personally, I actually felt that Tony Harrison did do enough to win that fight. I think I had it 115, 113, but it was a really close, it wasn't a fun fight to watch. It really wasn't. But Charlo definitely, he is the man at 154. The question is now, is that will he stick around? Obviously, Errol Spence has been saying that he wants to move up in weight after the Crawford fight, but obviously they're trained by the same guy, Derek James. And Charlo was saying that he needs to be named Trainer of the Year for 2022. And I think Derek James is one of them trainers who doesn't get as much praise as he should, because he is a fantastic trainer. He's done great work with Charlo. I think Jermell was in Ronnie Shields' camp originally. Might still be. Maybe Ronnie Shields is still associated with the Charlos. But I think Jermell was never really fully a Ronnie Shields. But I think Derek James has kind of been the guy who steered him. And, Jermell early on in his career, he was known as a boxer. He was the boxer of the two. Jermell was the puncher, Jermell was the boxer. But now, it was really after he fought, I can't think of his name now. His name escapes me. I'll have to get it for you here. I know the guy, but I can't think of his name. It was really after, what fight was it? Vanis Martirosyan. He started really sitting down more on his shots and started getting the power in. So the question is, will he stick around at this weight? I can't see it. I think he'll move up to 160 in search of titles there. Obviously his brother looks set to go to 168 at some point. So for Jermell, I see his future being at 160, and that's going to open up the division, because there's going to be a lot of people there looking to stake their claim to a couple of those titles that will eventually get fragmented, I should say. So you may see some welterweights moving up thinking, hang on a minute, I don't want to fight Spencer Crawford. title there at 154 against whoever. I fancy that. So watch the space at 154. On the undercard, we saw Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, people who watch my channel will know is that I've been extremely high on Boots Ennis for a while now. I remember first time seeing him was in 2019. I seen a highlights of him, and I know when you're watching highlight clips, they're always going to make it look as though the fighter is good. They're never going to. They're highlight clips for a reason. But what jumped out at you even then was like, this guy is as athletic as hell. His punching power is spectacular. His shot selection looks amazing. And they were saying, was it Al Bernstein was saying on the Showtime feed that Ennis hasn't, in the 29 fights that he's had, or 29 fights he's won. I think he's had 30 bouts, because obviously one of them was a no contest. That was the Van Heerden fight. He's never lost a round. And according to BoxRec, the only round he lost was against Sergei Lipinets. Certainly the one that I can see was against Lipinets on 2 judges' scorecards. The rest all scored it for Ennis. This guy is spectacular. I mean, Jaron Ennis really is talented. He is a tremendous puncher. His speed, his shot selection, his footwork, defense can be a little bit... His defense isn't bad, but I do feel sometimes he kind of can just say like, I don't mind if I get caught with one of these 2 shots because I know I'm going to hurt this guy. But he is the definition of making something difficult look easy. That's Jaron Ennis. That is literally Jaron Ennis in a nutshell. He makes a sport that is extremely difficult and a style that's difficult to look so easy. He just looks seamless doing it. And against Castillo Clayton, he was undefeated. He's a good fighter. Like, people are saying that. People will look at Clayton now and say like, oh, he lost to Ennis, he got knocked out in 2 rounds. Oh, he's no good. He is good. He is a very good fighter. He's very talented. And, he has a draw here against Lipinets in a fight that he took on very short notice. And personally, it could have really went either way. A lot of people felt he won. I know Don Trella scored the fight for Castillo Clayton. Castillo Clayton's a good fighter. He's a good boxer. And I really did think this would go rounds. Ennis, some people were saying that they felt that Clayton just didn't want to win. It's not that he didn't want to win. He just realised early on in that first round, holy mother of God, this guy hits like an absolute freight train. And he's fast. I'm in trouble here. And that was all it was. He was caught with a right hand over the top. It was a right hook landed kind of on the temple, top of the head of Clayton, took him out. And I was seeing other people saying that knockout looked suspicious in terms of his reaction. No way you could pull that. No way you could pull that reaction off as an acting. That was, Castillo Clayton was badly hurt. His legs were absolutely all over the shop. And Ennis called out Errol Spence straight after. People, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to pick him per se, although I have to really, maybe when I have a look at both guys and I weigh it up. But I think he's ready. I genuinely do. I think he's ready. I think he's ready for an Errol Spence. I'd love to see it. I think that Ennis Boots is ready. Now, obviously, this fight I'd love to see for Spence is Crawford. That's the fight I'm prioritising, and I really hope we see that next. But I genuinely, hand on my heart, do believe that we could see... that I genuinely, hand on my heart, wouldn't be complaining if we saw that instead. Obviously, the one fight I want to see, the fight I'm prioritising, is Crawford versus Spence. But if we get this instead, I ain't complaining. I think it's a fantastic fight. Let's look at some of the other cards. We'll focus mainly on the States now at the minute. I actually can't believe that. I was looking through BoxRec, right? And there's a heavyweight here in China who is called Zulong Zhang. I think he's related to Zili Zhang. Someone was telling me about this guy in the live stream I did. And I remember this guy fighting years ago. In fact, I think he was even meant to be on... Actually, yeah, I think he was meant to be on one of Eddie Hearn's cards, on a Monaco card back in the day. Now, this guy last fought in 2017, and he had his first fight last night, a 10-round UD. Man, this guy is a unit of a man. He's 40 years old, so he's not going to go anywhere. 6'3". He weighs in around the the low 280s for a guy who's 6'3". And just bear this in mind, right? His last fight was in 2017. He made his pro debut in 2010 or 2012. He was 200 pounds, cruiserweight, and now he's in the 280s. Crazy. I've seen him fight before. He's not going to go anywhere, but I just felt that was a little thing to chuck in here. Now I'm trying to go by chronologically. I want to get the American fights out of the way before I talk about the other ones. I'm just trying to get them up here on Box Rec as I flick through, because there was a lot of fights on the weekend, and I'm only on the Philippines now, so come on. Here we go. Taking too long here, people. Sorry about this. There we go. I'm in the States now. So obviously that was one of the cards that was on in Carson, California. There was also the Triller card, which was on here. Yeah, it is Triller, which was right. So we'll talk about it. The last 3 fights. So Evan Holyfield, who is the son of Evander Holyfield, got knocked out in 2 rounds by a guy who was 6-5, and out of those 5 losses, 3 of them were by stoppage. A guy called Shocker, Jermaine McDonald. Who did he lose to prior to this? I have never even heard of any of the guys he lost to, and he knocked Evan Holyfield out in 2 rounds. That really ain't a good look. I haven't seen the knockout. Some people were saying it was funny, but that's really not a good look to be 9-0 and already getting the knockout loss to someone like this. It screams Marcellus Wilder. Obviously, Evan Holyfield, I hope he's not as bad as him in terms of just everything, because that kid is... God help that kid. But he took an L there. Kubrat Pulev outpointed Jerry Forrest. Jerry Forrest, I thought, might have a bit of a shot in that fight. Obviously, coming off the back of a draw. Should have been a win over Michael Hunter. Had that very close fight with Zhilei Zhang. I mean, to come away with a draw in that fight was pretty impressive, considering he was down in each of the first 3 rounds. So 10-8, 10-8, 10-8. To bring that back to a draw was impressive, seriously. But Kubrat Pulev outboxed him over 10 rounds. And the main event was Kubrat Pulev's brother Jarrell Pulev against Sergey Kovalev, returning from an over 2-year hiatus. Remember, he was meant to fight Beck the Bully last year, but then he pinged affirmative for... Was he caught with something, or was he caught with higher levels of testosterone? But it was something along them lines anyway. So that fight didn't happen. And he made his cruiserweight debut against Jarrell Pulev. Jarrell Pulev, interestingly, is the same age as Kovalev, 39, 16-0. He's done absolutely nothing with his career. He's literally just fought obscure opponents over the last few years, done absolutely nothing. The thing I remember from him is losing in, I think it was it the semi-finals of the Olympics to Usyk in 2012. I think that's how I best remember him. It might have been the quarters or the semis, but it was one or the other. He lost to Usyk. But he fought Kovalev. Kovalev outboxed him. The thing I noticed about Kovalev in this fight, I watched it, is the size difference was there. It was there to see. Kovalev does not look like a cruiserweight. Yes, he boxed well when he kept it at long range. When he got in mid-range, he was getting tagged a bit by Pulev, which I didn't like to see. And Buddy McGurk agreed. He was giving him the riot act about staying too close. You're staying too close, Sergey. You're staying too close. In terms of Kovalev as a cruiserweight, I mean, I don't see that faring too well. He's not beating Bakole. He's not beating Briedis. Even Makabu, I think people kind of take the piss out of Makabu a bit too much. He is a good fighter. He's a very good fighter, Makabu. And in reality, it shows that Tony Bellew, how good he really was. Because that win that Tony Bellew has over Makabu, how well is that win aged? Because, yeah, Bellew was down in the... Bellew really in that fight... He was in control of that whole fight. If you actually go back and watch it, yes, he was down in the first round. He was just lackluster, and he just got lazy and let his guard down and got caught with a left hand. But he wasn't hurt. He just went down and just kind of straight back up, kind of let a left hand go through. If you go back and look at the Bellew-Makabu fight, Bellew was dominating that fight. Pretty much from the start of the first round to the last 10 seconds, he was in control, and then he was in control thereafter. And the fact that Makabu was gone on and beating guys like Kudryashov, Salak, is that his name? And then who else did he beat? He beat some other guy in Russia as well. And he's had some good wins. Obviously got the win over Tabisa Machunu. And Machunu is a good operator. Twice he's beat Machunu now. So Makabu is not a bad fighter. Make no mistake about it. And, it shows how good Bellew was at cruiserweight. I think we all... Look, Bellew was a tremendous fighter, just as a person, but as a fighter, he was tremendous. But Kovalev, I can't see him doing much at cruiserweight. I was watching Dell's video and he suggested Badu Jack. That fight makes sense to me. I think Badu Jack also fights on Triller. Make that fight. Both guys have seen better days. Make that fight. Make it happen. In terms of the other card, the DAZN card that was on, obviously Gilberto Zulu Ramirez got a win, a KO, 4th round KO over Dominic Besella. He beat the living crap out of this guy, stopped him with a body shot. The referee waved it off instantly. I mean, Besella was getting battered from pillar to post. The skill gap was just incredible in there. I mean, Zulu didn't put a foot wrong in this fight. He really didn't. Beat the living crap out of this kid. And, you know, Ramirez, as far as I was aware, at least last time I checked, he was mandatory. Pretty sure he was mandatory for Dimitri Bivol. Now, Zulu against Bivol is a really, really, really interesting fight, because I think that Zulu Ramirez against Bivol could be a very competitive fight. I felt this for a while now. Zulu has great footwork, bit like Bivol. I don't think he's not as fast. Just to the eye, he's definitely not as fast, but he's got great punch selection. I would say he probably has the power advantage over Canelo. Against Bivol, yeah, probably would hit harder. Ramirez, Zulu was a very good puncher. Excuse me, he's a tremendous puncher. Is Gilberto Zulu Ramirez. And I think at 168, he wasn't fully developed as a fighter. He was very young when he was only 24 when he won his world title. And I remember he was cutting a lot of weight. He was like coming in at like 186, pretty much basically cruiser, right? And he was weighing in at 168, the day before. So this guy is a big unit at 168. So I felt that moving up to 175 would do him the world of good, and it looks that way. And I genuinely think I'd be picking Dimitri Bivol, but I see that fight as a real kind of, which way would it go? I'd love to see. I'd rather see Zulu against Ramirez than Canelo against Ramirez, truth be told, or Canelo against Bivol, truth be told. I would rather see that. I really would. I think that'd be a great fight. It'd be a great fight. In terms of the other news, and this kind of sachets into something else I want to talk about as well. But the Yoka Bakole fight, again, fantastic performance from Martin Bakole. I really didn't see that type of performance happening. He beat Tony Yoka from pillar to post. It was absolutely fantastic performance from Martin Bakole. I was really impressed with it. His jab was on point. His shot selection was on point. Yoka had a high guard and it was very tight, so he was going and switching it up to the body. He had an upper. Martin Bakole done very well. He beat Tony Yoka up. But somehow we have a majority decision against this fight. Explain that to me, please. How anyone can look at that fight objectively and say anything other than it was a one-sided beatdown. The fact that we have judges, 2 10-8 rounds, the fact that we have judges scoring this fight a draw is bizarre. And again, it's a wider problem with boxing. It is. You look at the fight last week, against Canelo versus Bivol. The right man won. Yeah, but it's not the point. Why was it so close on the scorecards? If they could have robbed Bivol, they would have. If Canelo had even just been a little bit more active in a couple of rounds, God knows what way them judges' scorecards would have came out. Seriously. And to me, it's just it's happening too much now. Every single week, it seems we're talking about another bad scorecard, and it's not in one specific country, it's not one specific promoter, it's in general. It's just an endemic issue in this sport. I don't understand what is going on and why it's so frequent. I mean, in France we had this issue, in Scotland with Josh Taylor we had this issue, last week with Canelo and Bivol, in America we had this issue. It's just becoming too frequent now that we're getting these bizarre scorecards coming out. Like, even when the right guy wins, the scorecards are so bizarre and they're in favour of the home fighter. You're just like, what is going on? And we obviously know what's going on. I believe it's just corruption. It's just simple as, just no other word to use. I think that Teddy Atlas says it spot on. In what other sport do you have the officials having dinner the night before with the promoter of the show? You don't have that. I mean, if you look at, like, I'm just going to use an analogy here. You look at darts, right? You don't see the referee of the darts game, having dinner with the dart players the night before and saying, you know what, you bought me a few pints, you threw 3 darts at triple one, which is 9, but I'm going to pretend that they're 60s and say you hit 180. How's that sound? Yeah, and no one's going to think it's corrupt. Obviously, that's the first thing people would say. Something needs to change. I don't know how you regulate it, but something definitely needs to change. I mean, how in God's name is this happening so frequent? And it's always, people could say, like, you have people like, what's the guy's name, Rob Smith, that idiot, saying, well, boxing's a subjective sport, and judges, it's like, so you're telling me, right, that every single time we see a bizarre scorecard, or at least 95% of the time, it always goes in the home fighter's favour. That's not subjective. I'm not stupid, and boxing fans aren't stupid. We know what's up. And it's not just the British Boxing Board of Control. Obviously, this fight was in France. And Yoka even like, yeah, he looked out of his depth in there, but he kind of almost looked like a fighter who kind of was thinking, I might have this, if I can just keep jabbing and not get hit as much, I might still get this. Bizarre. And it shouldn't be. I'm sorry, it just should, in my opinion, this should not be. Obviously, I want to talk as well about the card that happened on Friday. Linus Udofia versus Denzel Bentley. Cracking fight. Cracking fight. If you've not seen it, go and have a watch. It was very good. I got my pick wrong. I thought Linus would win this fight. I have to say, if I have one nitpick on this, and I'll just say it, I was disappointed the way Linus approached the 12th round. Because he boxed that 12th round like a man who believed he was ahead in a fight that was very nip and tuck. And actually, Linus should have had a knockdown scored against him in the 7th round, because he did touch down. He got caught with a right hand from Denzel Bentley, and his knee touched the ground noticeably and kind of hooshed himself back up. That, in my opinion, should have been called a knockdown. It definitely should have. Denzel Bentley, I think the scars from the Felix Cash fight are slowly starting to heal, because he looked more of himself, and he didn't seem to be as afraid getting hit in this fight. So one of the criticisms I've had about Bentley is that he doesn't look like, he's no confidence in his chin. It seems like in this fight the demons have just kind of, they've gone a bit, and he was like, right, let's have it. I thought it was a brilliant fight. It really could have gone either way. Like, Linus definitely showed he is extremely talented and that he belongs certainly at British level. But in that 12th round, in a fight that was hanging so closely in the balance, he boxed that 12th round just looking to survive it, just looking to get by, just looking to move around the ring, minimise himself getting hit. And he got outworked by Denzel Bentley in that 12th round. And that really cost him, because had he had taken that fight and had he won that round, at the very least he would have got a draw out of it. Marcus McDonald scored at 116, 112 to was it Linus, or who was it? Did he score? Yeah, he scored that round to... Sorry, he scored it to Denzel Bentley. Terry O'Connor had it 115, 114 to Linus. If you had this a draw, or you had it to Linus by a few, or you had it to Bentley by a few, I've really got no complaints. I felt that Bentley just nicked it actually on that 12th round. I had it a draw going into the 11th, and I couldn't score that 12th round to Linus. So Denzel Bentley is now a 2-time British champion. I'd love to see this fight again, and I was thankful that it was on terrestrial TV. I have to say, the Indigo with the O2 is not the best venue for boxing. It's too small. They could have maybe done this at the Copper Box. In my opinion, that might have been a bit better. And I just think the Copper Box I think that when you get it full, like, even though it's not a massive attendance and stuff like that, but when you get it full, it looks really good. So there was that. But it was a great fight nonetheless. Obviously, Harlan Ben KO'd Sean Dodd. I think Sean Dodd's seen better days. I think he needs to call it a day. But I do recall before, he fought in Boxer there not so long ago, and I remember them saying that basically the money is not there for him, which is sad. It's really sad all the same. Josh Kelly was meant to fight on that card, and it's a bizarre one because I think it was something to do with weight. I'm not sure if he was overweight or the opponent was overweight, but it got pulled at the 12th hour, which is just... I was quite looking forward to seeing how Kelly looked, but the weight goes on. In terms of other news, I obviously saw Hannah Rankin defended her title on Friday against a lady whose name escapes me, Alejandra something, Elena I think her name is. And just an update, because just sadly after the fight, Elena was taken to hospital. I think it was brain injury, I know that, but it puts it into context that thankfully I believe she seems to be recovering, and I think she's going to be okay. I've had Hannah Rankin on the channel before, so shout out to her. But it can happen to anyone in the sport, man. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Boxing is brutal. It's a brutal sport. It's vicious. But for some reason it appeals to... I don't know what it is. It appeals to just the masculine nature, I suppose. I can't think of any other way. I love it, but I'll never try and sanitize it. It's not... It's brutal. We know that. In terms of some of the other news we would get to now here... Obviously, before I start this, obviously the thing we need to talk about, originally I was going to talk about, is Amir Khan retiring. He announced there, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, I'll just get it for you here, that he announced, retired on, I think it was the Thursday just gone, retiring from boxing, following the Brook defeat. Says, I'm blessed to have had such an amazing career spanning over 27 years in the sport that I love with a passion. Boxing has made me and given me a platform which I can proudly use to help inspire others. Shout out to Amir Khan on a great career. He was so much fun to watch. I will miss him. Nothing but entertainment. And you know, it really says to me that Amir Khan was holding out for Kell Brook. He was talking about fighting on. I was like, please don't fight on. He was holding out for the Kell Brook rematch. Brook renounced his retirement just gone there a week ago, and Amir Khan followed suit. You know, I want to just... People say, gee, you can be very harsh on Conor Benn sometimes. And I don't believe that. I think I say I'm fair to Conor Benn. He's improved dramatically. He's improved greatly. But I'm not one of these cheerleaders are going to say he's up there with Boots Ennis. No. And the fact of the matter is, you had Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn. You had Eddie Hearn more so originally slating Amir Khan versus Kell Brook, saying no one wants to see it, these guys are washed up, but the winner should fight Conor Benn. Not only did he want the winner to fight Conor Benn after saying both guys were, you know, finished, no one wanted to see it, but he wanted either Kell Brook or Amir Khan to fight Conor Benn. Imagine that, right? You're selling Conor Benn as the next big thing, but you wanted him to fight two guys who have now since announced their retirement. Seriously, people. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out that you're being sold a bag of goods there. You know, Benn improved dramatically from what he was, but there's a reason why they're being so careful with matchmaking, and there's a reason why they wanted Amir Khan and Kell Brook, because it's a big name that gives you, you know, it's a big name to have on your scalp, especially with Amir Khan, little reward. I mean, the fact that they were talking about him following Amir Khan's last performance, I mean, after the last fight, the Van Herden fight, I mean, come on. Seriously. Unbelievable. In terms of some other news that's out there, the Ring magazine have announced their top 10 pound for pound. I don't really do it's very subjective, but I'll read it for you here. Chocolatito 10, Taylor 9, Bivol 8, Lomachenko 7, Canelo, well, he dropped dramatically down to 6, Estrada 5, Spence 4, Inoue 3, Crawford 2, and the first time since Mike Tyson in the 90s, Usyk number 1. I don't do pound for pound. I find it very subjective, but it's hard to say anyone else other than Alexander Usyk is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. I mean, it's just fantastic what he's achieved, and he's a tremendously talented fighter, and he really is one of them fighters where you do wonder who will beat him. This is an interesting one. I didn't see this coming. Hunter versus Fury. Hughie Fury has been agreed and is likely going to take place the end of July. Now, that's an interesting fight, because that's a fight that I can see that being a very entertaining fight. Leaning towards Michael Hunter to win that fight. The speed of Michael Hunter would bother Hughie Fury. I don't think he's ever fought anyone as fast as Michael Hunter. That one's going to be interesting. BT have announced that they finalised their deal with Discovery to bring together their sports business in a 50-50 venture. BT and Discovery Eurosport will initially retain their separate brands before being merged onto a single brand in the near future. Interesting. Now, obviously, we know that BT Sport, it was DAZN were trying to get in on that. And then, obviously, Probellum got a deal with Discovery, which obviously have Eurosport. So it's likely that we're going to see Eurosport and BT merge together. So we may see more boxing with more promoters other than just Fish Eyes on, well, either or. Will it be BT? Will it be Discovery? I don't know, but it'll be one or the other. So that's interesting. Hearn has been saying that they've made an offer to Jose Ramirez to top rank for Conor Benn. That could be anything, but if that is true, if that has been made, an offer has been made, then I'm very happy with that fight. I think that that's an excellent fight for Conor Benn. I wouldn't be picking him, personally. I think Ramirez is probably bigger than Conor Benn at moving up from welterweight than Benn is at 147. I don't think people realise how small Benn is at 147. He is not a natural 147 pounder. I remember him even saying it, and I go back to this, I think it was in his third pro fight. He said that the goal was to do 140, but he didn't fancy doing the weight cut, and he likes lifting weights in the gym, so I'm going to stay at 147. This is not a natural 147 pounder, people. So Ramirez is a unit at 140. Really is a big unit at 140. So that fight could be very interesting if it happens. And look, if Conor Benn wins that fight, I will be singing his praises from ear to ear. Provided, obviously, there's no shenanigans with the scorecards, which I don't imagine there would be. But I'll be singing his praises if he wins that fight. I will. Because that's a great win to have. Really is. The WBO have now terminated their sanction for the WBO interim title fight at super middleweight between Demetrius Andre and Zach Parker. Fight will not be rescheduled. Frank Warren's been refunded. He would have sued him to high heaven if he didn't. But I like Demetrius Andre. I think he would have won, but that's all over the place now. I mean, what's he going to... He's out in the wilderness now. He's no promoter. It ain't looking good for Demetrius Andre. I seen Chris Eubank Jr. has said, let's be honest, this is on Kell Brook. You don't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed, so those millions you've made, they're not going to last you more than 10, 15 years to come out of retirement. Wow, really? Come on, man. You got to say it like that? I mean, Eubank Jr., obviously, he's no dance partner for any upcoming fights. He knows Kell Brook is a pay-per-view fight. He's got no one else to fight on pay-per-view. Triple G is the zone. You know, he's kind of... The Boxer deal at the start, if they could have got... You know, the Liam Williams fight looked good. If they could have got Kell Brook, it would look good. But now it's kind of looking like, well, you're kind of out in the wilderness now, mate. Because everyone else is on different platforms and they're not going to go there. And I don't think you're going to be willing to go there. The Triple G fight, maybe, but would Eubank be willing to go to the zone? You know, I know Sowell and Hearn have worked together before, but Eubank... I think that's very distasteful to say that you'll spend all your money in 10, 15 years. I mean, so you're basically, that's wishful thinking, that you're hoping that he, flitters all his money away so he ends up like one of them boxers with not a penny to his name saying, please, I'll fight for food. That's a bit distasteful, but that's just Eubank Jr. probably trying to goad Kell Brook out because he knows that that's a pay-per-view fight. Last but not least, Jarrell Big Farmer Miller is set to return June 25th. It will be Triller show in Las Vegas. It'll be his first fight since... I think his last fight was against Bogdan Dinu back in November 2018. So opponent is to be confirmed. When, not if, Jarrell Miller tests positive, in my opinion, is what we should be saying. Because, I'm interested... Look, I don't think he should be back in the sport. I think that just good riddance to bad rubbish, get him out. It's impossible to enforce a lifetime ban in the sport of boxing because every state in America is like a different country. That's why you have some states like New York where the governor is just, away with the fairies, and you look at a state like Florida where that governor seems to really have his head screwed on and really seems to get people come first, not you know what. So I'm sure there'd be one state that would have sanctioned him if he'd had got a lifetime ban. The part of me wants to see Jarrell Miller, another part of me doesn't, if you know what I mean. Because it's a real case of this guy is a freaking liability. He's a liability in the ring. I think he's got serious issues with the old substances, and I don't think he physically has the confidence in himself to fight without them. But at the same time, a guy, if you take the substances away and he still can retain that work rate and strength, he's a problem. There's no ifs, but he is a problem for most heavyweights, because where in God's name are you going to find a heavyweight with that work rate, with that strength, at that size, who could probably take a good shot as well? It's there's that part of me that doesn't want to see it, I will cover his fight when it happens, and I'll be tuning in. I will. It's that part of me that says I do want to see him. In that one sense, it's the fan of me, but it's the other part of me who's just get rid of this guy. He's a scumbag. So look, it is what it is. We'll wait and see who they announce him with. They'll definitely have to be. I guarantee you, he's going to find it hard to get opponents. Not because they don't want to fight, but because they'll be stringent testing. You're a liability. You are going to be tested round the clock every other day. Otherwise, we're not fighting you. It's not that we don't feel confident beating you. It's that we don't feel confident that you're not juiced up to the high heavens. That's what I think is going to happen there. So lads, I'm going to leave you there with that. I hope you enjoyed it. Went a bit longer. See, when there's always a lot of fights, we're always talking, trying to put them all in one. It can go a bit long. So I hope it's not too long. Hope you enjoyed it, people. For now, I'll talk to you. Smash the like button if you could. Get the ball rolling. Try and get to AK as quick as we can. For now, I'll talk to you, people. Peace.